Morning. For those who don't know me, my name is James Redfern. And for those who do, you've probably switched the video off by now, but I'm just here this morning to give a quick testimony of how God reached and saved me, or became a Christian, or born again. I grew up in the village of Desert Martin, just outside Magherafelt. I have 4 sisters and a brother, so there was plenty of noise about our house growing up. I was also born into a Christian home. I grew up hearing the gospel from knee high. As a child, I loved the stories, but I didn't actually take the step to become a Christian. Although I did make a few false professions when I was younger, but that's all they were, was false. Went on Desert Martin Primary School was the school I went to, then on to Magherafelt High School. At high school, most young fellas just want to fit in. They don't want to stand out from the crowd. So I just pushed any thoughts of God and salvation to the back of my mind, and just tried to get through high school. Said to myself, whenever I'm older, I'll think about all that. Them sort of things, which is a foolish thing to do, but that's what I did. Went on, done my GCSEs, done my A-levels, and then I just wanted to get out. I was sick of school, so I didn't want to go on to uni. Just wanted to get into the big bad world of work and enjoy my life. As a young man, you just feel the world's at your feet. You're just, I grew up with about 7 or 8 fellas, and we were all pretty close. We're all good friends. And we headed out every weekend to nightclubs and pubs and things like that. So that's what I was focused on, just for the weekend, living for the weekend. But God wouldn't stop speaking to me just because I was out at the weekends. And I remember me and my friends were drinking in a friend's garden one night, and we decided to go for a drive in the car. And unfortunately for us, the driver of the car was also drinking. So anyway, I remember we were travelling from Magherafelt towards Cookstown, and I was sitting in the back seat of the car behind the driver. My cousin was sitting beside me, and then my best friend was sitting on the other side of him. And just as we were coming into Moneymore, on the last corner, lost control of the car. The car went straight for the grass verge and hit the grass verge and went airborne over the hedge and landed down in the field on the far side. I remember coming around in the car. I was pretty stunned and dazed. I remember my cousin was unconscious, but he came around, and we were climbing out of the car, and I looked over towards the corner of the field, and I seen my best friend, who was only 18 years old, lying dead in the field. That was a hard time for me in my life. God really spoke to me at that time. My uncles were Christians, and I would go and visit them and speak to them about God, and I started going to church. But unfortunately, and I'm ashamed to say this, it didn't last very long. I pushed the thoughts. God was speaking to me, I pushed that to the back of my mind once again, and 4 or 5 months later, I was back out going to nightclubs again. But God wasn't finished with me just because I decided to reject him. He was very gracious with me and gave me lots of chances. But while I was out in the nightclubs and doing what I shouldn't have been doing, I met a girl called Andrea, who is now my wife. Andrea is the same as me. She grew up in a Christian home, but again, she, like myself, put those thoughts off to later in life. But me and Andrea started getting pretty serious, so I introduced her to my mum and dad, and it wasn't long after that until Andrea was going to gospel meetings with my mum. I went along as well to a few of them and thought nothing more about it. But I came home from work one day and Andrea told me that she got saved, and I was pretty shocked. But again, I was happy for her, but and I was thinking to myself, I've put it off all these years with them, settled down, and now here I am, and I've settled down, and the other half's saved, and what am I to do? So it started me on a journey, and I started looking into, sort of, is the Bible right? Is it true? How can you trust it? Um, I was looking into atheism, but one thing I did look into, which stood out to me, was Lee Strobel and the Case for Christ. It was about the resurrection, and the fact that the disciples went to their deaths proclaiming that Jesus had rose from the dead. Now, as Lee said, why would you die for a lie? If these disciples had thought or had made this lie up that Jesus rose from the dead, and they were threatened with death, and they were going to be killed for saying this, then you had to be mad to go through with to keep on saying it. You would have said, okay, listen, look, it was a big hoax, it was a lie, it's not true. But these disciples went to their deaths proclaiming that Jesus rose from the dead, so they had to be absolutely convinced in their mind that Jesus rose from the dead, and that really shook me and stood out to me. But anyway, still hadn't made the decision, hadn't made that jump and get saved. So it wasn't until I was in work, when I was working a night shift, and I was working with a fella who was an atheist. So me and him were chatting back and forward. I told him my wife got saved, and we were chatting back and forth about whether God's real and this and that and the other. And I said to him about Lee Strobel and the Case for Christ, and he was like, well, that's really interesting, I came away from that discussion feeling pretty smug, that I'd put good points in for, to an atheist. I thought that was a ridiculous belief system anyway, but I ended up, when I walked away, God spoke to me right there and then and said, how much is it going to take for you to accept, what I have done for you? And just right there and then in my workplace, I just held my hands up and repented of my sins, and I accepted what Jesus done on the cross. And I said, Lord, I'm a guilty sinner, and I accept the free gift of salvation, that you bore the punishment for my sins on the cross. So I just want to read a wee verse here that sort of sums up salvation for me. It's found in Ephesians chapter 2, verse 8. For by grace are you saved through faith, and that not of yourselves. It is the gift of God, not of works, lest any man should boast. So what it's saying here is, look, we've all broken God's law. We've all sinned. We've all told lies. We've all maybe taken something that hasn't belonged to us, no matter the value. We've been jealous of our neighbours. We've all broke the law, but Jesus has paid the price for us on the cross of Calvary. And as I did, it was the 27th of March 2016, and I reached out and said, took the free gift. I said, Lord, I repent of my sins, accept that Jesus bore the punishment for me on the cross. And that's my story. That's how I got saved, and it's the best decision I've ever made. I'll never look back. And thank you for listening. Enjoy the rest of your day.